fellow riders and Airhead enthusiasts, and welcome back to Airhead Barn. In this new episode of our Tech Talks, we are going to talk about tools. Actually, in the next few episodes, we are going to talk about tools, but today we are going to focus on basic tools that we are using for our ranging. Those can be tools that you carry with you on a bike when you are going traveling, and also tools that I have, for instance, in a shop that I use for ranging on these bikes. So first, we need to start with a kind of tool roll that was included at the time when you purchased the bike. And those days, those tools like tool selection was pretty decent. You could do some kind of work. Later it became worse and worse to the non-existent that is today. And the reason for that is because bikes became so complex that you actually cannot wrench on them on a road. Then if something goes bad, you are out of luck. You need to trail the bike to the shop and where skilled mechanic is going to work on them. In the past, in those days when airheads were mostly on a road, you could still work on a bike. And basically the mantra behind the airhead was that you can almost fix anything on the road regarding these bikes, and that's why owners really like them. They like wrenching on them. Alright, so here I have one typical roll that was delivered with the airheads at that time when you would purchase it. This one is probably not completed. I have maybe 3 of those, and I believe none of them is complete, but these are kind of tools that I can find handy if something happens on a bike. I won't go through each one of these wrench or whatever I have here, but basically the more that you have in your roll, the better it's going to be. And rolls really, tool sets differ from ears. For instance, this one has so-called spoons to remove a tire, because this one is from 77. Later models that have tubeless tires, they don't have such a tool because you probably won't need it. You will patch your tire, in a different way. But I found these rolls pretty handy. One thing that's usually not included in a roll, and it's considered kind of airhead specialty tool, and I always like to carry. If something goes wrong with the alternator, I have that hardened bolt that is used to remove the rotor. So that's what I always carry additionally if it's needed. Okay, now we will switch over to tools that I use in a shop, and of course you can go crazy here, as many tools as you want compared to the tools that you carry with yourself on a bike. And yeah, let's proceed. So first, what you want to have, actually that I like to have, is a pair of gloves. This is my hobby. It's a second kind of job, side job. And I honestly don't like having my fingers all greasy, and that's why I use these. These are, I believe, something like a black diamond or something like that called, and they prove to be pretty durable and really nice gloves. I like using them. It's not for everyone, some people don't like using gloves. I have a really good friend of mine that is an amazing mechanic, and he never wears gloves. He just doesn't like them. Okay, next thing is a lamp that you will need, when you are trying to set, for instance, the ignition or the valve clearances. You always want to look at that small window, and without a proper light, it's impossible to see that. Also, 12-volt light tester. I like using this one. It's really nice, beefy one. With this, you would also need, and I don't have it here to show you, like a multimeter, something reliable, something that gives you good result. Don't go with a cheaper, cheap version from Harbor Freight that you can buy for $5. That's not going to work. At least it's not going to work long enough. Buy something that's good. You don't need to go with a Fluke. It would be good if you have money, but something decent on those lines. Alright, now about pliers. I really love pliers, and for me it's never enough to get pliers. And I've collected a lot of pliers during years. I brought some of them here, to show you. Some of them are in a shop, some of them I bought, some of them I got from my father. And you will notice that as I talk, a lot of these tools were actually from my father, who was a really skilled car mechanic, still is, and he gave me a lot of his tools. Okay, so let's first start with a kind of regular pliers. These are from Stanley, like just a normal, size, pretty decent pliers when you need to squeeze something quite strongly. Next one from the same set was these kind of pliers, and yeah, my father never liked these. He thinks they are for plumbers. At the end, I end up using these quite a lot, so I have a good relationship with them. I like them. And then again from the same set, I have these cutters. Not like too strong for if I need something very strong to cut, like nails, then I have a different cutters, but these are like for regular things, pretty nice. And then from the same set, these are like normal nice needle nose. Alright, next thing, since these cutters were sometimes too big for me, I decided to buy another set, which is this is a bit smaller size, and I really like those. And the next, if you need something really tiny and fine, there are these cutters. I always try to buy quality pliers because they can last you a very long time, and that generally goes for all tools. You will notice some of these tools that I have are probably like 40 years old, and they are still here with me. They work great, and just because they were not like cheap Chinese tools, those were all either made in Europe, for instance Germany, or they are made in the US like these are. Alright, let's move on. Then from father's tool box, I have again these regular pliers, but that are a bit smaller in size than these, much easier to hold it in hand, and I love working with these. I loved working with these when I was back in Croatia, and I brought them with me, and they are just terrific. They are made by a company called Junior, and I believe it's Slovenian company. It used to be in Yugoslavia, but they work terrific. These pliers, you can use it for a lifetime. It doesn't need to be snap-on. There are also other really good brands, but I would recommend don't go with the cheapest option that you can buy in Harbor Freight. It's not going to serve you well, even for hobbyist machines. You don't need snap-on. Some tools in Harbor Freight are just fine, and I do have them. They work okay, but some of them are just horrible. Another one from the same set, small regular needle nose that I use. Also love these as well. Now we can stay with needle nose because I have a pretty good selection of those. Another one from Junior, but this one compared to the yellow one, which is kind of regularly shaped. This one has a round nose, and it's very convenient when you need to work around some small barrels, things like that. And here is another type of needle nose pliers. Finally, staying with needle nose, I have these beefy ones when you need to reach something that's really far away. I love using these, made by Crescent, quite good stuff. And then from the same set, they were like curved needle nose pliers that they are really handy sometimes. Alright, if we move forward, these are flathead, and yeah, they are very thin and have a flat head. When you need to hold something with them, they don't cut. They are just for holding things, and I use these quite a lot. Alright, a couple of vice grips, needle nose vice grips that I have, and also regular wise grips. These are made from Husky, not terribly expensive, but still okay stuff. And you know, when they go wrong, I can always replace them. Next thing that I have here are these small, I have no idea even what's their name. You know, in Croatia we call them parrots because they look like a parrot. And you can actually use them for, you know, unscrewing nuts because they have this hexagon shape and they can, you know, comply almost to any size of nut. This is a really handy tool to have in your toolbox when you are traveling, because if you don't have exact, you know, size of a wrench to take something off, these can be very, very helpful. I don't use them that much, you know, in my shop because I have wrenches for that, but when traveling these are really nice. And then continuing our way with the pliers, I have here our snapper ring pliers, you know, like 90 degrees bend that are external, so when I squeeze them they open. And then I have a regular without the band, also external. When I squeeze they open. These are made from Knipex. It's a German made pliers. I love these. And then I also, for a snappering ring, have a, you know, internal, like a regular one. When you squeeze them, they squeeze as well. Cheap version of those made by Husky that can be either internal or external, based where you put the you know, this kind of screw in a hole. Yeah, I don't use them too much because I have my Knipex, but these can come handy as well if you don't plan to spend on, you know, different sets of pliers. And finally, what I brought here is again tool made pliers made by Junior that my father gave me, and these are for peeling wires. So they have like different slots here. Basically, you squeeze them and they peel wire just like that. I love this tool when working on electrical components of a bike. Alright, so those are all the pliers that I have, and now we are going to shift gears and switch to wrenches. Okay, back to our tool overview. Now I have here several sets of wrenches. I love using like a normal manual wrenches. Those cordless wrenches, they don't find a place in my shop when working on bikes. I do have one, and I use it when I work on a car just because it's much faster when you use it, you know, but you can always run a risk of, you know, damaging things like stripping threads and all kind of things. And I really don't like those things to be, you know, near my motorcycle. So that's why I heavily rely on a normal wrenches and also sockets with ratchets. Alright, so this is for instance the first set that I have. These are, they call it like a Z type of a wrench or offset type of wrench. This is a deep offset. Again, I got this one from my father, made by Junior, and I have a complete set here. They are really handy, nice to use. I absolutely love these. It's not easy to find something like this here. Usually offset is not that deep at all, you know, or you can find some in Harbor Freight. I tried buying those, actually I bought them, and I don't know what wrench we needed at the time. It was like 19 millimeters, and we were able to strip the you know, head of a bolt, because when I measured it, it had 19.5, so tolerance was just, you know, crappy. It was horrible. I returned that tool, but damage was already done, and I needed to find a way how to remove that bolt, and it was not easy. So don't be cheap with tools, that's the point of a story. I definitely love these. Next set again that I got again from my father is Wurt Zebra set. These are combined, and these are ratchet wrenches. You know, it's a bit smaller set. You know, the largest I have is 19 and then goes all the way down to 8 millimeters. It has like 6 pieces, but they are angled. You know, they are angled. Wurt makes really good quality tools in Germany. Usually Mercedes shops have those by default, and you know, these are really good tools, you know, like a Ratchet, and love this one, absolutely gorgeous tool. Next set of tools are the ones that I bought here. So this is a complete set, I would say, that goes all the way from, you know, 7 millimeters to 24 millimeters, made by Husky. I use them quite a lot. I'm, you know, very pleased, very happy with it. As I said, it's not snap-on, but it's still a good tool, and it didn't break my wallet. Alright, again, combination wrench where you have open and box stand. Next thing, I have like two smaller sets here. So this one is open box, but it's, you know, like almost three quarters are basically closed. And this one is really good, you know, when you need to use open end wrench, but you don't want to risk with, you know, stripping that head. For instance, if you have, let's say that, you know, spigot bolt on a calipers that has a pipe through it, you cannot use closed wrench for that. You need to use open. Compared to open that has only like two places of contact, this one basically has 1, 2, 3, 4 places of contact. So it's way better and more secure than a normal open end wrench, and I like using that one for that particular application, so you don't end up stripping things. So this is combination of 20 and 21 millimeter. So 19 and 21 millimeter. So for instance, if I would compare, you know, how regular open looks, you have only these two things that face your nut or bolt. Here, you know, you basically have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's definitely more secure way of doing things if you don't want to risk the stripping. Okay. 3 wrenches that I have here, all 3 are basically combinations, so they cover 6 different sizes, and they are all closed or box stand. These I bought from Arrowstitch. They had some sale. I have no idea who makes them, but they seem to be pretty good. I like using them. They go all the way from 8 to 17 millimeters, you know, kind of a tool that you would put in your you know, tool roll when you are going on a trip. And they were cheap, I believe like only $10, but so far I love them. The reason I bought them is I thought of, you know, grinding one of them if they are good enough to fit, you know, wherever it's tight. For instance, when you are let's say connecting your shaft to the gearbox, you know, you need that box stand wrench needs to be grinded a bit, unless you have someone with a really thin wall, which I do have, so I didn't need to grind this one, but that was the reason why I bought it. Okay, and finally, speaking of wrenches, I have this set of really short wrenches. They go from 10 all the way to 19 millimeters. Sometimes when space is so tight, you will definitely need these. And you don't have, you know, when you don't have enough space to fit like a regular length of a wrench, these come extremely handy. Alright, so that's what I have about wrenches, and now we will switch to ratchets, sockets, and breaker bars. So ratchet, sockets, and breaker bars. Let's start with breaker bars. The biggest one I have is 1/2 inch. This one is from Harbor Freight, works pretty fine. If it breaks, I can always buy another one. I'm sure other options are better, but they are, you know, at least 5 times more. And so far, I was not able to break this one, so it's fine tool to buy there. Next breaker bar that I have is made by Cobalt. That's a company from Lowe's, and this is 3/8. That was 1/2 inch. I don't have anything bigger than 1/2 inch. I didn't need it in my work. There exists also things that are bigger. If I need, you know, more extension, I put a tube over that 1/2 inch and then, you know, use it to break things. This one is a nice. I love this one, for a smaller stuff to do. But when you need something, that is really strong, then I go with my big breaker bar. Okay, ratchets. I have 3 of them made by Husky. This is a half-inch ratchet, and I have like complete set of sockets with it. That includes like a normal hex sockets. It includes Torx, like mostly Torx are with 3/8 that I have, and I also have inverted Torx, like called E sockets, that are used for newer BMWs. Then what else? Like all kinds of deeper, or shallow sockets that go. I didn't bring it with me because those are really heavy, and I have a lot of sets there. Alright, and then as I said, 3/8, this is the one that basically I use the most. And finally 1/4 inch for some smaller stuff, or where I don't want to risk damaging things. For instance, if I'm putting spark plug back, I always use this one because it's not going to strip the head. What I want to mention here is never use torque wrenches for a job that's designed to be where you are supposed to use ratchet. The reason for that is ratchet is fairly cheap compared to torque wrenches. If you have quality torque wrenches, save them, and they can last you for a lifetime. So maybe in the next episode I can talk about torque wrenches and how to properly use them. Okay, I hope that you like this episode, that you find this useful, and looking forward to seeing you again in our next episode.